Hi, this is Tom Vander Ark from Getting Smart. Today we're looking at our favorite body of curriculum. It's called Big History Project, bighistoryproject.org. It's the history of everything, and we think it's a terrific way to integrate math and science, history, and English, particularly writing across the curriculum. We have some terrific teachers with us, and the marketing lead from Big History. And so I'd like to get started with Traci Pannullo. Traci, you're a teacher at Ridge and Valley in New Jersey. How do you use Big History Project?
Our school is a K-8 public charter school, and our mission is education for a hopeful, sustainable future, and we have been integrating a larger context of Earth literacy, which is very along the lines of Big History, having that larger context of the universe and cosmic timeline and putting humans into that. And so we have been doing that K-8 for 10 years, and Big History is a great turnkey program for us. That's to
awesome.
Just
that makes it sound like there's really tight alignment between your mission and how Big History is organized.
Absolutely. It's very closely woven together, and we love the fact that Big History has a lot of resources that are things that we've been searching for a long time, but that really weren't available for students of our age level. So we love the fact that Big History, that originally was at college level, came down to high school, and now we're using it for middle schoolers.
That's awesome. And Traci, you use it on a 3-year loop?
We do. We have teams of students who stay with the same teachers, who we call guides, for 3 years, 2 to 3 years, and so we use the program over the course of those 3 years, and we use the units that fit in with the lenses, the curriculum lenses that we already have designed.
That's awesome. Traci, what's on your bulletin board behind you?
Those are the thresholds from Big History. Move my head out of the way so you can see them.
Yeah.
And they're a great way of just getting a quick glimpse into what the major thresholds are, and each one corresponds to a unit in Big History.
That's awesome. Amy Hiebel is from Maplewood in Edmonds, Washington, just north of Seattle. Hi, Amy. Tell us how you use Big History Project.
Hi, Tom. I'm a middle school science teacher, and I have the same kids for 2 years. We're at a small K-8 school, and so I have the same 110 kids. And in 7th grade, we start the story of Big History, and we use the narrative, the 13.7 billion year history of the universe, to be a framework to fit all the science curriculum in. So in 7th grade, the kids work through the first half of Big History and learn all their physical science kind of as we go, and then when they come back in 8th grade, we have this wonderful planet and life takes hold, and we follow the second half of Big History with life science in 8th grade.
I'm curious what the history and English teachers know about and think about you venturing into your space with this content.
Actually, I'm really lucky to have an incredible team. Again, we're kind of a small middle school, so I have been teaming with my language arts and social studies teachers because I'm trying with the Common Core to do more of the essays and research, and Big History is awesome because it has a lot of that already prepackaged and ready to go, and it's powerful and really easy to use. But I'm teaming with my language arts teachers when the kids are learning how to do research in 7th grade, learning how to write a 5-paragraph essay, how to write a thesis, all those kinds of things. So it's really cool if the kids see that what they're doing in one class, transfers to another, and it becomes just more powerful that way.
That's really awesome. Tell us a little bit about how you might link a unit in Big History to an experiment, like at the beginning of 8th grade. What might that look like?
Okay. Yeah, at the beginning of 8th grade, we'll start out with a little review of the first half of Big History. And I just want to put a plug in for our Yammer community. I got a really cool video today that I'm going to use for that. So yeah, the kids will come in, we'll do a quick review, and then we're going to say, okay, we've got this wonderful Goldilocks planet, and now life is going to take hold. And so we'll get out the microscopes and do a whole unit on how to use microscopes. We'll look at animal cells, plant cells, talk about how life started, and take that into human body systems and biology and all of those kinds of things. So it fits really well.
That's awesome how they'd go from the screen to the microscope and back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love how you're working in some writing across the curriculum with your colleagues.
Yeah, that's really cool because as a science teacher, like all of even math teachers are looking for ways to get research and reading and writing in because the Common Core is being adopted, and so it's great. I don't know what I would have done kind of without it.
Eric Waldstein is the marketing director for Big History Project. Welcome, Eric.
Thanks, Tom.
You've heard from two phenomenal teachers on how they're using your content. Just give us some thoughts on what you just heard.
Yeah, a couple things come to mind. First of all, I think you'll notice both Traci and Amy are coming from fairly different instructional contexts. And that's actually quite reflective of a lot of the teachers in our design partner program and just teachers using the course. So point being, Big History is a very flexible curriculum. We do see it as a social studies course and a framework for all learning, but we see with a lot of our deployments, teachers make it work in science classes, social studies classes, ELA classes, and it also becomes a great platform to foster that collaboration that Amy mentioned. And then, yeah, if I may continue, another thing I want to highlight, again, is just the use of our online teacher community, another thing that Amy mentioned. And so we use a platform called Yammer, and this has become a very robust and dynamic platform for BHP educators from literally around the world to collaborate, share resources, ask and answer questions, celebrate student work, and things of that nature.
Until recently, I thought about Big History as really high school and college level. Is middle school use relatively new?
So it's not new. It's a smaller cohort of teachers, and our target audience is 9th and 10th grade social studies. But again, especially with the new kind of updates to the content we've had that include scaffolds for differentiation, such as multiple reading levels for all of our articles and readings, things like that. We are seeing more middle school deployments, and I would love to hear from from Amy and Traci, on their thoughts of the curriculum in that context.
It's great. Traci, do you have a chance to interact with other Big History teachers?
There aren't a lot in this area directly, like really close to us, who are using the program. But ironically, one of our trustees at our school works at a high school not too far, and he's actually teaching it at his high school as well. So it's interesting to get his perspective because he works in a very traditional, segmented environment, whereas our school is very integrated. The content across the school and across the day is pretty much interdisciplinary. So we are doing projects all the time, and this fits perfectly in with that. But we are in contact with email with other teachers who are doing it, but we don't have anyone kind of close. But we have a cohort of about 6 people who are working with it at the school directly, so they have each other to collaborate with as well.
Have you been able to plug in with other teachers online that are using it?
I haven't directly, but I'm actually not in the classroom. I'm the curriculum coordinator at the school, but I know that some of the teachers here have.
And Amy, do you work with other teachers, both local and online, that are Big History teachers?
There's maybe only 1 or 2 other teachers in my district, and they're high school teachers, and they're using it much differently than I am. And so I'm finding it most useful to use the online community because I can ask questions and get ideas from people who are using Big History in so many different ways. So I don't really have one person I'm in contact with, just the online community.
That's great. I would love to know how you guys are using the content. It's such engaging content, but how do you make sure that kids are meeting objectives and that they're doing projects that you can assess with some consistency and some rigor?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, give that a shot, Amy.
Yeah, I guess for me, I am adding a lot of my own science curriculum in, and so a lot of my major assessments, of course, because I'm a science teacher, are the NGSS standards, the
Yeah.
performance standards that they need to meet. But I do use almost all of the research projects, the inquiry projects at the end of each unit, where they end up researching and writing an essay or doing some kind of project related to it. So I get a lot of great feedback from how deep their understanding is from those end of unit sort of projects.
That's great. And Traci, it sounds like your team is well versed in creating integrated projects.
Right. Since our curriculum is based on the same premise as Big History, and it's been developed over the last 10 years, there are a lot of projects, and just the way that the content is organized by lenses. For instance, the lenses are reciprocity and transformation and emergence, and so the science and social studies and all the other content is integrated into that language arts and math. And so they are already, the staff is already developing projects related to that. So Big History is a beautiful, just slides right in there to support the project, add a great additional piece or another assessment element to it, and just really reinforces the standards.
That's great. And Eric, say a little bit more about what resources are available for teachers, both in Big History and then on Yammer.
Yeah, absolutely. So within the actual curriculum, on bighistory.com or bighistoryproject.com rather, we have basically our course teaching guide, which it's a pretty hefty document, but what we're seeing now with the update that we've done this year is certain schools are actually using this as a professional development guide for many teachers, not just Big History project or Big History teachers. And what we do is we lay out our approach and guidance on how you can teach reading in a Big History classroom or really any social studies classroom. So there's a framework for teaching reading. We have a framework and guide for just facilitating great classroom discussion, writing, peer review and peer collaboration within the classroom, assessment and project-based learning, and research. And so, and I could rattle off some more, but point being, we really kind of lay out our approach and then provide guides and rubrics to how these various techniques can be implemented in Big History and other instructional contexts.
So last question, I'd love to know from each of you your advice for a teacher or a team that's new to Big History. How do you get started? What would you suggest, Amy?
Oh gosh. I would suggest they just lock themselves in a room for an afternoon and just check out the website. Because as soon as you start going through and seeing what's there, they're going to get so fired up about it, they'll be like, we're going to figure out a way to plan this together and do this.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think 3 hours in a classroom.
Yeah, because it's really an extraordinary journey, right? The amount of content is it's quite breathtaking, and it's just beautifully presented. Traci, what would you suggest? How to get started?
Well, I love Amy's suggestion, and I would just add to that simply that always, whenever you are working with any curriculum or teaching anything, it's all about your own development and understanding. So what Amy suggested, go in there and don't just explore the technical aspects of the course, but really come to understand the deeper purpose of the large context, the interconnectedness of all content, and the fact that it really brings everything into play into one central project and idea, and that the teacher has to shift their perception of the content and really learn more about all these different pieces that impact other things that they typically may have separated into separate content areas. So getting your head around it and starting to think as a systems thinker, that's how I think you would best learn Big History before you ever go in and work with kids on it.
It's great. Eric, how should teachers get started?
I think Amy's got a great point. So to start, I would go to school.bighistoryproject.com and register. I would then start with, we have a quick start guide and a course guide. So I would check those two documents out. And yeah, then I would just, I would cruise around the curriculum, definitely spend some time with it, and absolutely join the online community. I think if you do all those things, you'll be in pretty good shape to kick off the course.
Great. It's been great being with you. Bonnie Latham has featured both Traci and Amy in a recent blog, and we'll be producing a bundle of blogs in the next few weeks that feature middle grade uses of Big History Project as a central point for integrating curriculum. We're really big fans of bighistoryproject.org, and I think it's a terrific resource for integrating science, history, and English, social studies across the curriculum. Just a great resource. Eric, we appreciate your work and your colleagues. And Traci and Amy, thanks for being with us.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
And thank you, Tom, and thanks to Traci and Amy and all the teachers. It's really largely their work that makes all this as good as it is.